Hello, everyone. This is Dylan Morgan, aka Vanilla Sugar, back for another podcast. Today we're going to start with college basketball. The ACC tournament is in full effect today. The semifinals is tomorrow night, and the championship is Saturday night. This brings us some great basketball tonight. But first news is Zion Williamson will be returning for Duke tonight in their game versus Syracuse after being out for a while with a knee injury after that injury that broke the internet against North Carolina where he fell through his shoe. Tonight's games is North Carolina and Louisville on ESPN at 7, then Duke and Syracuse on ESPN at 9. Doubleheader of college basketball for the ACC tournament. Virginia won earlier today, beat NC State, and as this podcast is being recorded, Virginia Tech and Florida State are hashing it out. I'm pretty sure Florida State is winning right now. Last time I checked the score. Yeah, but for college basketball, we're 3 days away from Selection Sunday. Very exciting. Selection Sunday, for any of you that don't know, is the day that they pick who goes to the March Madness. And that's only 3 days away. So after this weekend, all teams will be done with their postseason tournament, and then it's on to the one of the biggest sporting events, if not the biggest sporting events. Obviously, Super Bowl has been getting some criticism, so I think March Madness is everyone's favorite one now. I mean, it doesn't let down. You got so many teams, and they're all coached, and they're just a great athletic organizations, just all in one tournament, a giant tournament that everyone is watching. I think it's sports, one of sports entertainment's greatest things for sure. So just a thing that televises who goes to the tournament gets so much views, and it's amazing. It's amazing for the sports world. I'm very excited. I'm a Clemson fan, so Selection Sunday is a big day for me. I don't know if they're going to make it or not, so that's what I'm just going to root for them making it. A lot of people go there to see what seed their team's going to be because they know their team's going. But Clemson is, I think, on the bubble right now. They lost to NC State yesterday. I was a little disappointed in that. I think if they beat them, they could have had a pretty good chance, and then beating Virginia would definitely put them in. Virginia's number 1 seed, but we'll see what happens there. So when you guys are watching it, just remember, root for Clemson for Vanilla Sugar. So now to NFL news. Blake Bortles was released yesterday at some point. He had 2,718 yards last season and 13 touchdowns, a QB rating of 44.1. He never had any success with the Jaguars. He had that one good season a few seasons back, brought him to the playoffs, but in his couple of seasons played them all with the Jaguars, not much success, and gotten a lot of criticism this season. And I think a lot of people saw this coming. They just signed Nick Foles a while back, maybe a week ago back. Yeah, so moving on from Blake Bortles for sure. I got this stat online. Since he entered the league, no quarterback has thrown more interceptions or pick sixes than him. So that's a pretty good stat to sum up his unsuccessful term with the Jaguars. But we'll see what's next for Blake Bortles. I'm thinking he's going to be a backup QB for a team that's worried about their quarterback getting injured, or maybe a good team, maybe a bad team that's going to start him and try to resurge him, if that's a word. Another old all-star of the NFL, Eric Berry, was released yesterday as well. Just too many injuries. Everyone's rooting for him, so I'm sure we don't like to hear that he's released because of his issues with cancer and actually returning to the field after having cancer. But it's just not enough playing time for the Chiefs to keep him. They're gonna move on from him, release him, and we'll see where his next destination is. The 49ers signed Tevin Coleman from the Atlanta Hawks. Coleman had 800 yards last season and 50 yards per game. He's a great running back to add to the 49ers already stacked running back position. they're going to be seeing Jerick McKinnon returning this season, so we'll see what they can do with those running backs. Also, Matt Breida, if I'm pronouncing that right. So a few good running backs with the 49ers. Um, a lot of injured players coming back for the 49ers, so it should be interesting to watch what they can do now that they're coming back. The Ravens signed Earl Thomas. He played last season with the Seahawks. He was a free safety, only played 4 games. Um, that's probably why you can see him walk over. Um, the Ravens are making some pretty good moves. They also added Mark Ingram, who had 645 yards last year and 53.8 per game. Great running back. He's tough. Played for the Saints. I've watched him a few times. I like the way he plays. So yeah, that's it for the Ravens, but they're making pretty good moves. Traded away Joe Flacco, and they're choosing Lamar Jackson. So we'll see how that goes next season. Very athletic young quarterback. I like him. Needs to throw the ball more. I think that the whole internet knows that. The Redskins re-signed Adrian Peterson. This will be his 13th season, and he'll be playing with the Redskins once again. He has struggled with injuries, but he did play every game last year. Had 1,042 yards. The deal was a 2-year, $8 million deal. Good pickup by the Redskins. He played great for them last year after having a lot of rough seasons. At one point was suspended. I don't remember the whole situation, but I know he was suspended for some reason. I think it was a drug thing. Now to the NBA. Russell Westbrook gets another triple-double in the win over the Nets, 108-96. At one point in the game, the Thunder were down 17, and in the game with a pretty healthy score. Russ had 31 points to go along with 12 assists and 11 rebounds, I believe. OKC tied up with Houston for the 3rd seed now. That's a fun race to watch. The Thunder, Blazers, and Houston all battling out for 3rd seed. And the winner gets 3rd seed, the loser gets 5th seed. That's a big difference to who you play in the first round. So they want that 3rd seed for sure. It should be fun because those are 3 very talented teams. The Rockets have kind of come for that 3rd seed after not having a great start to the season. But obviously, we've all seen what James Harden's been doing, and he's definitely going for that 3rd seed. Westbrook and Paul George are going to be great in the playoffs. So, but I think they want that 3rd seed to face whoever's going to end up in 6th. So if you're in 4th or 5th, you have the toughest first round matchup, really. Usually on paper, that's what it is. You're the 4th seed, you have to face the 5th seed. And the 5th seed in this case is someone who could be in the 3rd seed one day and the 5th seed the next day. So you're going to want that 3rd seed if you're one of those 3 Western teams. So it's a good, exciting battle to watch at the end of the regular season. Something to give us to watch. The Heat won last night over the Pistons, 108-74. Pretty big win, considering the Pistons are 2 spots ahead of the Heat in the Eastern standings. What's interesting is this better for the Miami Heat? Does this show improvement in the Miami Heat, or does this show the Pistons getting weaker? Because we saw either the night before or a few nights ago, the Nets also blew out the Pistons, and the Nets are below them. Maybe not anymore. No, not anymore. But the Nets were below the Pistons and blew them out. So now the Heat blowing out the Pistons. Does this make the Pistons look like the 8th seed? The Heat are still two games back from the Pistons. So not that close yet. We'll see what happens in the next few games for both teams. See who gets that 7th seed. The East is still very wide open. The Heat are securing that 8th seed 2 games ahead of the Magic. I don't really see the Magic doing it at this point. They had a nice run not that long ago that brought them into the talk, but I think the Heat and Pistons are just going to be battling for 7th seed. I think both teams can say that they're most likely going to make the playoffs at this point. Obviously, they won't say it, but that's what my prediction is. It's going to be those two teams at this point. But the Pistons are looking like they're not keeping up with their competition when they face them head on. Um, so we'll see what happens there. That should be an interesting storyline. Late last night, our final game of the night was the Warriors versus the Rockets. The Warriors won by 2, 106 to 104. Both teams, not both teams actually. The Warriors got out to a big lead. The Rockets stayed in it at some parts of the games, and towards the end were able to stay with it, but just came up short. Steph Curry at 24, DeMarcus Cousins at 27, and Klay Thompson at 30. How do you beat a team like that when you got three guys like that scoring like crazy? It's very hard, but if there's one team that can do it, it's the Rockets, because before last night, the Rockets never lost to the Warriors this season. So that was interesting to see if the Rockets were going to sweep. The Warriors got a big win. They didn't have KD with them. The Warriors are now 1.5 games ahead of the Nuggets for first seed in the West. It's just crazy to me that the Nuggets are still in that race, and we're not talking about the Nuggets that much. So I'll make sure to mention them in some podcasts later. That's all the news we got for today. Some always NBA action, but I didn't get to take some time to record some games. But we got college basketball ACC tournament on tonight. Make sure to catch that. Follow me on Instagram at Vanilla Sugar Sports. No capitals, no underscores, just Vanilla Sugar Sports. And DM me during the games if you want to talk about something during it. I'll be happy to chat with you. I think that's it for tonight, guys. This is Vanilla Sugar, as always, signing out. Like and subscribe.